meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Enosburg Falls is being conducted electronically in order to ensure the safety of all attendees and to maintain compliance with Governor Scott's executive order. Per H 681 signed into law on March 30, 2020, Section 6, there is a temporary suspension of designated physical meeting location requirements of Vermont's open meeting law, VSA Section 312A1. In order to ensure that all attendees can hear clearly, your audio has been muted. When you wish to speak, please raise your hand by submitting a chat request or, if called in, by pressing *9. Once acknowledged by the chair, clearly state your name and then proceed with your question or comment. Please remember that when unmuted, all participants can hear sounds in your environment. Again, this meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Matt. Does anybody have any modifications or changes to tonight's agenda?
I think we have one. Just about 3 minutes ago, I got an email from Jim Cameron, and it was cut off a little bit. It didn't come through completely, but it appeared that Jim was canceling for tonight on the Enosburg Initiative report.
Okay. Other than that, are there any other modifications or changes? All right, we'll move on to public comment. I don't think there's anybody here from the public right now, so we'll move on to review and approval for minutes of July 28th. Everybody have a chance to look those over?
Yep.
And if they look correct, I'll hear a motion to accept them.
A motion to accept.
I'll second that.
Jason with the first, Leonard with the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right, up next we have a Lincoln Park permit request for Cat Crusaders of Franklin County.
So if the board looks in your packet, you'll find an application from Cat Crusaders of Franklin County. That's a private nonprofit organization that is run by Jamie Rushford. And the application is actually a backup location for an event that Cat Crusaders would like to hold. So they're asking for September 19th from 11 a.m. to noon, so for 1 hour. And what the event is, it's a fundraising event. The idea behind it, if I understood correctly, the way Jamie was explaining it to me on the phone, she's going to do a rubber duck race as a fundraising event for Cat Crusaders. And she wants to do it on Tyler Branch. She's concerned because water levels have gotten so low in the rivers in our area that there may not be enough water in Tyler Branch when she wants to do the event. We don't know yet. September 19th is, that's over a month away. So could happen. We get some good rainstorms and, the river picks up and she might have enough water by then. But she's concerned about it. So she wanted a backup location. So she's asking if she can use the central fountain in Lincoln Park as a backup location if Tyler Branch is too low for her to run the rubber duck race there. So, and that's basically what it is. Staff does not see any issues with this, and if it pleases the board, would recommend approval of the application.
A motion to approve.
The application looks good, and it's finally see one coming across the table here. So.
Yeah, with the right timing.
Yeah.
Could we just do like a, with proper COVID-19 compliance?
Yeah, I mean, we could under the conditions, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can write something to that effect under the conditions that, I mean, I did talk with her about that on the telephone, and she knows she has to do that, but right. You're right, she didn't make any mention of it actually in the application, but yeah, we can write that under conditions to just state that the applicant must follow all relevant COVID-19 requirements for the event.
Yeah, just straightforward with that. Yeah.
I'm good with that. So if we want to let her have this event here, I'll hear a motion.
A motion to approve with the condition.
All right, Jason with the first. So I have a second.
I'll second that.
A second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right. Next up, we have request. Wait, no, sorry, I'm on the wrong one here. Vermont Support Agreement Extension.
Yeah, so we again this evening have Ken Nolan, General Manager for Vermont Public Power Supply Authority, gracing us with his presence tonight here. There are some materials in the board's packet that speaks to this transmission agreement extension request. Ken and other members of VEPSA staff have been working on this issue for about 2 years. And we've got Ken here to talk to the board a little bit about the history of it and some of the details involving this contract. So this is an extension of what was I believe it was a 20-year contract. No, I'm sorry, a 30-year contract, which was originally enacted in the 1980s. So Ken, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you. Didn't really expect to be back with you so soon, but as John described, a 2-year-long negotiating process came to a conclusion fairly quickly. And there's some federal regulatory requirements that are causing people to want to move this issue along. So we're trying to get it on the member agendas throughout the months of August as we can. Some brief history here. The phase 1 transmission line is actually a high voltage DC line that starts at the Canadian border inside Vermont, crosses the northeast part of the state and enters New Hampshire around Comerford, so just north of St. Johnsbury, and continues on through New Hampshire down to Massachusetts. A number of Vermont utilities, most Vermont utilities, entered the original contract for use of this line back in the mid-1980s in order to bring in the Hydro-Quebec original contract that was entered, called the Vermont VJO contract. You might recall that's the contract that had a fair amount of opposition and controversy with the flooding of the Indian lands in northern Quebec. But most of the Vermont utilities ended up going forward with that contract for a 30-year period. So delivery started in 1990, which is when this contract actually took effect. It ends in November 1st of this year. Part of that original agreement was for a 30-year term with a right to extend for an additional 20 years if the utilities that were paying support payments decided to do so. This involved almost all the utilities in New England in one fashion or another. So those negotiations have been going on between about 40 different entities over the past 2 years. All of the utilities that were providing support payments have initially indicated they want to continue. We anticipate that all of those utilities will sign on to the extension. Everyone's just going through their approval processes at this point. Originally, this was required in order to bring the Hydro-Quebec power into Vermont. Some changes happened in the wholesale market when ISO New England was created back in the early 2000s, so that there isn't actually a physical requirement to continue this transmission contract. So there's no requirement for you to continue the contract in order to get power. You technically could end it if you wanted to. We don't believe that's the right economic decision for Enosburg or any other of the VEPSA members. The reason for that is this line has some pretty high financial value to participants in the market. has value in two ways. ISO New England considers this line to be very valuable from an emergency standpoint. So if they have a large generator in New England trip off line, they have access to 1,200 megawatts of power from Hydro-Quebec over this facility. And because they have that ability to bring power in on short notice, they give capacity credit to any utility that owns rights to the line through the capacity market. So Enosburg would be getting an equivalent reduction in your capacity requirements from ISO New England if you continue to own your portion of the facility. Those rights right now are worth about 5 times what you would pay in support payments going forward. As a separate conversation, we're having a number of marketers, lack of a better term, in the market. So companies that have been created to move power for economic profit from Canada into New England or New York. Several of those companies have reached out to us to see if they could lease the space from the VEPSA members. So we would essentially turn over the right to use the line to those third parties, and they would pay us for that right. What we're hearing from those folks is the lease payments that they're offering would also be about 3 to 5 times what your support payments would be to continue this line. So from an economic standpoint, even though you don't technically need the facility in order to make your power supply operate, financially, it's very advantageous for Enosburg to continue on. So we're recommending to all the members that you sign the 20-year extension. It would be an agreement between Enosburg and Velco, the transmission company for the state, and VEPSA would facilitate the market transactions and provide the revenues back to Enosburg once the extension is in place for everyone. I'll kind of stop there and happy to answer any questions you have.
So that's what this chart is on the second page of the contract here. Is we got to put in about 14,400 and we get back about 73,000. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, let me and see if.
I think that's over the 20-year period, though. So we're getting much higher return than we are.
Right.
Those are nominal dollars. So yes. Yeah, the support costs are only a couple $100 a month. Now there is some risk if the line has a failure or something, that number could move around. But part of the negotiations over the last 2 years has been laying out a capital improvement program, and those numbers are built into the support costs. So we're anticipating the cost over 20 years would be about $14,000. You'd actually get, between the capacity credits and the lease payments, around almost $88,000. So your net profit over that period would be $73,000. And that's all based on an analysis. The folks who are rights holders as a group, we all got together and paid a consulting firm called Daymark Energy Advisors. They're a pretty popular firm in New England, do a lot of work on this type of thing. And they spent about 6 months going through all the assumptions around capital costs, operating costs over the 20-year period, what the value of the credits are likely to be given the market conditions. And so the numbers we're showing you were based on the work that consultant did.
To me, this seems like a no-brainer.
I agree.
It's about as close as you're going to get in the utility business, I think. Not to say there are no risks, but it's fairly minimal in the context of what you're doing.
Well, if we're all on the same page, John, are we going to need a motion to extend this? And we'll probably have to sign it, yeah?
Yeah, so if the board would like to take action, yes, you would need to make a motion to approve the 20-year extension. You may want to also designate me as the signer on the contract just to make it easier.
Okay. I'll hear a motion to extend the Vermont support agreement with John as the signer.
I motion to extend it
Cindy,
with John as the signer.
second.
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
All right. Second, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right. Got that out of the way.
Very much.
Thank you, Ken. There's no Enosburg Initiative report, I don't think.
No, the message we got from Jim, he wrote it in kind of a strange way, and the full text of the message didn't come through the email, but it appeared he was saying he's not going to make it to our meeting tonight.
All right. So I guess we'll move right along to the manager's report.
All right, great. First of all, I want to make the board aware that the Public Utility Commission has extended the electric utility moratorium on disconnects again. So the last deadline was July 30th, and it is now set at September 30th. So they extended it another 2 months. I just want to keep you guys apprised of that, as it directly affects our electric department's revenues potentially. And we just need to keep an eye on that. Don't know if they will extend it again come September 30th. We'll just have to wait and see what the PUC does. But I wanted you guys at least to be aware of that. Also, as we've discussed in some previous meetings, the state of Vermont has put aside an arrearage fund. And that arrearage fund is to help support delinquent electric utility customers pay off past due amounts that they have on their electric accounts to various utilities, whatever their electric utility happens to be. The DPS has been tasked with working out the details on this as the Department of Public Service. We're not quite sure how they're going to manage it yet. They are still working on those details. But what we do know at this time is that the customer will have to apply for the arrearage fund dollars. The utility cannot apply for it. However, if the applicant is successful, the state will send the funds to the utility. So that's a good thing, at least. And in that way, it avoids the issue of, the customer then possibly taking the money and spending it on something else. And then, the utility never gets it. And so it's, you don't want to see that kind of situation where people are taking the money and not using it for the intended purpose. So at least, with that mechanism in place, it'll avoid that issue. But the customer will have to apply. That will be on them. We've also discovered that the state is going to set up a portal so that customers will have to do this paperlessly. Is that a word, paperlessly? You know what I mean, without paper. That is electronically, thank you, that's a better word. I don't think paperlessly is actually a word. So the one snag I can see with that is that for some of our customers, I know and I'm sure it's probably the case with, at least a few other electric utilities in Vermont as well. I know that some of our customers are going to have a difficult time with that. Some of them are just not computer literate. And some of them may also live in areas where they don't have internet access. Or perhaps they just maybe they have internet access, but they don't want to pay for it. So they don't have it in their house, even if they do have potential access to it. So I can see that being a little bit of a rub in this, that the state will only allow customers to apply for the funds through this portal. But we've also been told they're working on trying to work out some kind of method to get people assistance you know, if they need help in some way, if they're not computer literate and they just can't figure out how to use it, or, you know, if they need access to a computer and they just don't own one or whatever it is. We're told that the state is trying to work out an assistance method to help people that are not able to get into the porthole for whatever reason. So that's about what we know on the arrearage fund right now. It probably will take a little bit for the DPS to figure out all the details on how they're going to run this program, but I wanted to share with you at least what we know right now about the program. Matt, do you know anything more beyond that at this point?
So there is another meeting scheduled with the department to review some additional changes they've made to the portal. And I believe that is scheduled for Thursday at 1 p.m. So we'll have some additional information then.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt.
Do either of you know how customers are learning about this?
I don't have a lot of,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I don't have a lot of details about that. I do know that it's going to be our responsibility to try and help to ensure that our customers are aware of this. So our staff is already looking at ways to make sure that we can keep our customers informed. I believe we're going to try and get it into bill stuffer in the next 2 billings that go out.
Okay, great, thank you.
We also will be making notification via phone when customers are calling us in that may have past due balances.
Thanks. I was just thinking if people weren't online necessarily, they might not, how they know about it, but it sounds like it's very well covered.
Yeah, you know, and I definitely would, you know, once it's put together, the program itself is still being constructed, and DPS is, as I said, still trying to figure out how they're going to run this. But, you know, once they've done that and they've told us, okay, we're ready to go live with this now, you know, I certainly will encourage our staff to, you know, make the customers that have arrearages with us informed of this, because it'll only help us in the long run. I mean, this is going to be an opportunity for us to get some of those past due revenues back into the electric department again. So, yeah. Okay. Next, I wanted to let you guys know that we have been steadfastly working on trying to get the road paving projects that we had hoped we were going to get done in 2020. So those discussions and meetings continue. In my manager report to you, it says yesterday, but I wrote this on Friday, so it was actually Thursday of last week. The village held its pre-bid conference for the 2020 road paving projects. I think we got good attendance, all things considered. We had 3 contractors show up to the pre-bid conference, and those were ECI, Hutchins, and Pike. So as a reminder, bids are due on this project August 20th, which is next Thursday, I believe, with the intent of having the bid award made at your next meeting, which is August 25th. So hopefully all 3 of those contractors will bid on the project, and we'll have some good bids to show you guys. Wanted to make the board aware of a correction, a mistake that I made at our last meeting on July 28th. During the course of that meeting, I had stated to the board that you had approved renting a portal on Lincoln Park for 2 months. And after the meeting, it was brought to my attention that the minutes from that reading actually reflect a motion for 3 months. And that language is what's in the minutes and what you approved. And I believe the minutes were correct. After thinking about it a little bit as to, you know, why I was thinking 2 months in my head, trying to wipe away the COVID brain fog a little. I think what happened, if I remember right, is that the board had said to approve the portalet for 2 months, but also to give staff the ability to extend that for another additional month if it seemed to be working out well, having the portalet on the park. So for a total of 3 months, and that is what was in the minutes, was 3 months. So I just wanted to make that correction because I made a misstatement last meeting. So I just wanted to correct myself on that.
Do we have any feedback on the portalet? Is anybody using it?
No, I don't, Cindy, other than you and the comment that you made to me a couple of weeks ago. I haven't heard from anybody myself. Matt, have you heard from anybody?
I have not.
Okay. So no, I haven't heard any feedback one way or another.
Okay.
I do have a couple other things that I would like to just make the board aware of. If you can just give me a minute here.
John, while you're
Yeah.
looking for that, can I make a comment?
Sure.
I just wanted to share with the board, in conjunction with the road paving project, we did get notification on August 6th, last Thursday, from the Vermont Bond Bank that they successfully closed on the bond issue, and at record low interest rates. In their 50-year history, they had never had lower interest rates for a bond issue.
Good news.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Matt. So a couple other things that just happened this morning that I wanted to just fill you guys in on is we heard from DeRoche Construction. They're the construction firm that we hired to do the Orchard Street and Water Tower Road sewer and storm drain project. They are going to be starting tomorrow with cutting the asphalt. So they've got a saw that they will actually start cutting out portions of the asphalt on Orchard Street. And they are scheduled to begin their excavation for that part of the project on Orchard Street next Monday, the 17th. We're going to post this on our website to make people aware, you know, that there is going to be some construction work starting on Orchard Street. They got to do Orchard Street first, and then they'll go do Water Tower Road. The reason for that, remember, is that storm drain work on Orchard Street has got to be finished before we can do the paving. So we said as part of the contract with DeRoche that they got to finish Orchard Street first. When they're finished with that, then they can go up to Water Tower Road. So along with that, would like to make the board aware that from the dates of August 17th through the 28th, there will only be through street traffic allowed on Orchard Street. So the street will be closed to public traffic unless you're a resident, obviously, and you live on Orchard Street. People are going to have to go take a detour around Orchard Street to get onto 105 or wherever it is that they want to go. So I also want to make the board aware of that. So from the 17th to the 28th, Orchard Street will be closed to through traffic. And we'll get.
So can we make a front porch forum post for that too? I know you said you're going to put it on the website, but then we can get it out to the public a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. Yeah.
I believe it's already been posted on Facebook as well.
Oh, it has?
I believe.
I'm flipping. I didn't see it on there. Working too much, maybe.
I could be mistaken. I will check with staff tomorrow to make sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure it's no problem though. We can do it on all three: the village website, Facebook, and front porch forum.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was one thing. And then the last thing I wanted to let you guys know about, also this morning, we got final approval from VTrans Railroad Division to put the bench that was donated to us by Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation last year, along with trash and recycling bins next to the new kiosk along the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail right downtown. So we got final approval from them this morning to put those things in there, the new bench, the trash, and the recycling bins. So Gary is going to be getting that scheduled as soon as possible. You know, may not be until next month that we're able to actually do the work and complete it, but you know, probably within the next 4 or 5 weeks, we'll have those installed. So, and that's it for manager's report.
Is that bench going to be a year-round thing? They're going to leave it there in the winter?
Well, we talked about that, and I think the conclusion that Gary and I came to, just to try and preserve the bench as much as possible, is we're going to mount it with bolts on a concrete pad, but it's going to be, you know, the bolts are going to be able to be removed so that in the wintertime we can actually take the bench off the pad and then store it at the Public Works garage during the wintertime. You know, so we get a little more life out of it that way. It doesn't get all rusted out and stuff in the winter because it's steel. It's a steel bench.
Yep, good. And the groomer won't hit it.
Or that too, yeah. Gary's a little concerned about that too, you know, in the winter because it gets used by snowmobiles. And they do run a groomer through there. Plus you got snowmobile traffic coming through there as well. He was a little bit concerned that somebody might hit it and damage it. So, you know, if we can do it this way, you know, still put it on a pad so that it's, you know, it's nice and a good strong support base for it, but put it in with these bolts that can be unscrewed. You know, that'll be a way to preserve it through the winter time.
Yep. Good call. Okay, that was it for manager's report.
That's it for manager's report.
All right, thank you, John. Let's move on to other business. What do we got?
I just want to remind people that it was brought up a few meetings ago about bios and pictures. Just reminding people to do that. And if anybody needs help, I think Matt said he was available to do that.
Could we, because I know I brought it up and I still have to do my picture. I wrote the bio. Could we maybe all agree to have it done for the next meeting? Is that feasible? Timeline, due dates work really well for me.
Yeah, we can do that.
I don't know who else we're waiting on, but.
I haven't gone down to do mine yet. I know you're waiting on me at least.
Cool.
Other than that, does anybody else have anything?
I know last meeting we talked about the Dropbox, and maybe we could talk about it tonight or next meeting, but it's still coming up for people. But it doesn't sound like it's necessarily specifically just like a COVID related issue, just like in general, the consumers, our customers would like to be able to process with checks and not have to mail in their bills. So just that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain number of customers that want the Dropbox back. They've sort of never been able to get over that. The Dropbox came out, you guys may recall, I believe it was in February of 18, so about 2.5 years ago. And the reason it was removed was because we had an attempted break-in on it, in which they fortunately were not successful, but they came very close to pulling the drop box out of the wall. And the fear was it had just become too big a security issue. And so we decided not to have that as a payment option anymore. But, staff hears from, a certain number of people fairly regularly that they want the drop box back. That's not necessarily, you're right, it's not necessarily a COVID-19 issue. The only way you could sort of look at it from that perspective is it would give the people that only have the option of paying in cash because they have credit problems or something and, can't get a checking account at a bank. It would give them another way to pay. They could put their cash in the box, which is also a little bit sketchy, to be perfectly
Yeah, I was
honest.
wondering if you could do it, but only not accept cash, but I guess.
Well, you can. I mean, once it's there, people will
But people
do,
can always get a cashier check or something.
yeah, or they can get a money order.
Right.
Even if you can't, even if you've got really bad credit and the bank won't allow you to have a checking account, you can get a money order from any post office.
Yeah, I feel like there's a certain population of people that bank a different way by choice and by and it's the way that they do things. And I'm just curious, maybe also like what are other entities doing? Like, do they have drop boxes, and is there a different kind of drop box that we could do that'd be more secure?
The answer to your first question is it's a mix. Yes, there are other electric utilities that have drop boxes. There are also other electric utilities that do not have drop boxes. If you're a customer of Green Mountain Power, which is about 75% of the population of Vermont, you're not going to drive to Rutland, which is where Green Mountain Power's headquarters are, so that you can go stick your payment in a drop box in Rutland if you live, 3 hours away. So most people in the state do not have that kind of access, but there are some other electric utilities that do have drop boxes, and some don't. So it's a mix. The answer to your second question is yes, there are other options that we can look at for drop boxes. The security risk, I think, is still somewhat there, but I mean, we could probably find a box that is a little safer than the one we have now. We may have to do something to the doors to bolster them and, make them a little more sturdy. I know at least a couple of you are aware of an incident we had yesterday down at the office where we had people attempting to break in to the village office while we were open, and they did some damage to the front door. We're going to have to replace that front door. I think if they had been more aggressive, they may have even been able to get through that door. But fortunately, they gave up. I guess maybe that's not the right phrase to use, but they stopped, and their attention got diverted in another direction, which brought them away from our front door for enough period of time that we were in a safer situation. So, stuff like that happens. I know the general public isn't aware of all of, and even the Board of Trustees sometimes is not aware of all the challenges and difficulties that we go through as a small local government running an electric utility in, the second most rural electric service territory in the state. We have a lot of challenges in that, and we have some extremely difficult customers. But, I see it as sort of, a risk benefit type of thing. If the politics are to the point for the board where you feel like that's a bigger priority than being able to secure the building and make sure that the payments that we receive, you know, are actually in our hands and we can account for them, you know, then, you know, you need to tell us that, I guess, that it's gotten to that point politically that you want the drop box in there no matter what, and we need to find the safest way to do it.
Can I say something to that?
Sure, of course.
I think we should kind of table this until we do some research, because obviously banks that have night deposit boxes, excuse me, are more secure than what we had before.
Oh,
I mean,
totally different
basically,
animal, yeah.
yeah. So we need to do some research, and I'm sure there's nothing in the budget right now. Nothing's budgeted to put in this high-tech security Dropbox thing. So it should be tabled until we can do some research. And if it's only like 5 people, then maybe it's not worth looking into, but we should do a little more research first. Because I know I was scared after I found out what happened.
That's horrible.
Do you want to,
You know,
do you want to put it on the agenda for next meeting? And in the meantime, staff can look into some quotes and get some numbers for us, and they can get themselves a nice door in the meantime.
yeah, well, and monetarily too. I mean, it may not be something we can physically do until the next fiscal year.
Right. Yeah. It might, exactly, Cindy. You make good points with all that. I think that it definitely really needs to be deeply thought about if a percentage of our population and the customers are feeling like at a disadvantage. We need to think about it. And then weigh it all out if we can,
Right.
if it's feasible and appropriate and safe to do it.
My stepbrother in Florida was manager over the 7-Eleven stores, and they had Dropbox safe, and whatever went in there, only the manager had the key to that safe. And I guess it was right in the floor or under the counter. And it was nothing that you could get to.
Right, but that's not gonna, you know, go to Ace Hardware and pick up something for a couple $100. That's something that is gonna require some construction.
Yeah, from what you're describing, it sounds like that was something similar to maybe like an actual bank safe or something, and that's a
Right.
that's a totally different animal, and
Is
we
that
don't even have
if
the
it's
space.
secure, somebody could just not put cash in and say I put cash in. And there's no way to track that.
Oh yeah, and that's a whole other issue with the Dropbox is, you know, sometimes people would do some pretty surprising things. I mean, I think I mentioned you guys before. I mean, we would have customers sometimes would, you know, just put cash in the envelope. They wouldn't even put their receipt or anything in there, and just like write their first name on the front of the envelope and stick it in the box. And we're supposed to figure out, you know, who put that in there. It's, you know, it's like, well, how can we understand where to apply that, you know? And so when that would happen, we would have to, you know, wait for a phone call from someone saying, hey, what do you mean I didn't make my payment last month? I put, you know, $150 in cash in your Dropbox and I wrote my name on it. And then we'd be like, well, okay, so you just wrote your first name? Yeah, okay, well, then we would know, okay, so that's the guy. That's the guy that just wrote his first name on the envelope with no receipt or anything in there. But, you know, it's just, we would figure it out eventually, but it's just, people would do stuff like that and it creates complications.
All right, so what do we want to do? Do we want to, it sounds like we all have a pretty good understanding of the risks associated with it. Do we want to put it on the agenda and actually make a decision on this next meeting, or?
I think we can wait even longer, to be honest with you.
Okay. And in the meantime, do you want to have staff look into some options and get some quotes together?
Sure.
Okay. Matt, there wouldn't be any budget issues with that, right? There must be some account that we could pull any funds out of if we needed to.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll do that then. If you guys want to look into it, that would be great, and we'll get some numbers and we'll think about it some more, and we'll actually make a decision here coming up.
Okay, so my understanding is you do want it on the agenda for next meeting on the 25th, and we'll just talk about it, or did you want to push it off further than that?
Cindy, do you want a next meeting, or do you want to go a little longer?
Well, to me, it's not a top priority. Like I said, we don't really know how many people would use the Dropbox, so
Right.
whatever the consensus is.
Staff's already done an extensive amount of research on costing for this, so we could easily be prepared by the next meeting.
Okay, let's
Okay.
just put it on for next week, and we'll get it hammered out.
Okay,
Okay.
will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have anything else? If not, I'll hear a motion to go into executive session for discussing negotiations in which premature public knowledge may compromise the position of the municipality and a personal item.
I'll make the motion to go to executive.
Heather with the first. Do I have a second?
I
I'll
second.
Okay. Leonard with a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Let's head to executive. All right. Looks like we have everyone. I'll do a brief roll call here. Cindy,
Here.
Heather,
Here.
Here. Oh.
Jason.
Did you say Heather?
Henner, yeah, Leonard.
Leonard. Okay, yes.
Okay, we got them all. All right, so a couple things in executive. First up, a motion to approve the terms of the new union contract as discussed in executive.
A motion to approve the union contract.
Cindy with the first. Heather, was that a second?
Yep. Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, second thing I need is a motion for wage increases of all non-union, non-contracted employees to receive the same increase as Public Works Department.
I'll motion for that.
The first,
I'll second it.
Cindy a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right, that's all the stuff we had to take care of. If there's nothing else for tonight's meeting, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Leonard with the first. Do I have a second?
I'll second
Se-
that.
Heather with a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, meeting adjourned.